And hello everyone, welcome to Inner Secrets Revealed Kabbalah class with Dr. Gil Tivon. As always, I'm your host for Metaphysical Sciences TV, Mike Ray. We have another amazing episode ahead of us today, and we're sorry we have been gone for a couple of weeks, so we will surely catch up and recap on what we have learned so far. We have learned so far about the Tree of Life, the different Sephirah, starting with Kether, going all the way down to what we learned about last time in the last episode, which was the Sefirot of Yesod, or Foundation. And we are going to learn today more about the Sefirot of Malkuth, or the Kingdom, and the secrets of the sacred Hebrew letter Tav, and finding your life's mission. So, without further ado, I will turn it over and hand it over to the man of the hour. Let's give him the power, everybody. Dr. Gil Tivon. Dr. Gil Tivon, everybody.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and good evening, my dear friend Mike. So, of course, you can put up the Tree of Life, and we will recap as I was away a little bit out of state, and here I'm back. So I'm sorry that we missed each other, but there's always time to catch up. And for those who don't join us now, you can always see it later on the recording. So we are looking into the Tree of Life, and this is really the Tree of Life, where this is the depiction of how each one of us look. We have the crown right up there, just hovering above our head. We have the right hemisphere of our head, which is the chokhmah, the wisdom. Left hemisphere, which is the logical mind, is the understanding. And there is a Sephirah, an emanation, which is not mentioned here because it's number 11 and we only have 10, which is the back, the trunk of our head, which is called the Da'at, which means that knowledge, which is the cohesion, yes, between knowledge, between the understanding and the wisdom. Then we go down to the right side of the body, which is all to do with emotions of kindness, which some say is the highest level of intelligence. And then on the left side, right, left arm, left side of the body, upper side, which got to do with emotions, is Gvura, judgment, which means what do we actually take for ourselves? I can't give anything to anyone if I don't fill up myself. I need to nourish my own resources in myself, sleep-wise, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, in order to be able to give. I need to stand my own guard and my own boundaries in order to facilitate life. So we have the ego on the one side and we have the soul on the other side. We have limitations and nourishing ourselves, and we have also kindness and giving. And then we go to the fusion of these two, but it's done on its own in a unique way, which is, as you can see, the major Sephirah emanation at the center, which is the Sephirah of Tiferet, beauty or splendor, which really is the heart of the matter, and that's why our physical heart is right there. And again, if we try to compare this, or you try to compare this rather, to the 7 chakras, you'll fall very short, because the 7 chakras do not depict right and left sides. They only talk about the center. So even though they are correct and they do exist, nevertheless, it's only partial truth. It's not the entire system of what a human being is made up of, and doesn't show the struggle and the different sides as is depicted by the human body. And the reason the human body looks like this, because in the upper worlds, this is the Tree of Life, the Etz Chaim. It's the ETZ, which we call it as Etz, right? Such a letter in the Hebrew, the sacred Hebrew, which we'll get to. Now, this is very important, Mark. Just meditate and stay on this picture that you just brought up. Even though we went through different Sefirot, and we're going to go tonight, and I didn't finish, I know, all the way down to the kingdom at the bottom, to Malkuth. But you can see that there are different kind of meridians which are interconnecting them. So altogether, we have here this 10 Sefirot, but we also have 12 meridians, altogether 22, the exact number of the Hebrew letters in the alphabet, in the sacred alphabet in which originally the Bible was written, and it is still till today written in the original Hebrew in that. So very good. And the Taf, if you already brought it up, Mike, very nice. I see that you made your homework. The Taf there is the last letter at the very bottom, right? Which is that Taf, as you brought it up before, yes. Very bottom left, right? There's the Taf, as it says Taf. And really, it shouldn't say Taf, as usually people say it when they speak Hebrew, but it says a Tav, which is a T-A-V. That's the right spelling according to Kabbalah. It's not a T-A-F, it's T-A-V. But most people, when they speak in slang, they don't really know, so that's why they write it in such a way. And the other letters that I see that the roots in the translation to English, which are not exactly correct, but it gives us a very nice outlook of the system. Now, as we go down there, we will see back in the 10 Sefirot, we go down to the right side, which is the Sefirah of Netzach, which is the victory, and we discussed at length different aspects of it, which is very important. And this is facing a lever, an entire left limbs all the way down, the right limbs, all the way down. And on the left, we've got the sphere of Hod, or rather of glory, which depicts a splendid all the way down the left leg, all the way down. At the center, we have again, each time we have something that balances the entire system, which is Yesod, the foundation. We went into length last time to understand why this is actually facing the sacrum, and all our imagination, illusions, inner world and the world of procreation, and this is a very essential kind of Sephirah, and therefore in our day and age, this is a Sephirah which is very challenging to many, many people to conquer and to master how to do that. And that comes in many, many ways, and each one can use his own imagination and knowledge. What exactly do I mean? I trust that you all are wise and clever and smart more than me. The last one today, and again, even though we're discussing today the last one, and they are out there in YouTube and in Facebook, all these previous lectures, we haven't finished at all, because we've only discussed, including today, 10 Sefirot, but all the meridians in between, which will give us all the inner intricacies, which are another 12 sacred Hebrew letters. This is what we're going to do in the next few weeks. So I haven't forgotten about them. How can I do so? So the last Sefirah for today is for you to have the first inkling of how we draw a human being, of how do we pick any company, any organism, any solar system that we have around. Everything works according to this. And scientists today are very clear that even our very DNA is built exactly like that. So when we go down to Sefirot of Malkuth, and this is very good kind of Etz Chaim on the left. You see on the right, the Etz Chaim is connected all the way up to Netzach, to eternity and our victory, and up to Hod, which is glory, which is incorrect. On the left side, the left tree of life, from where we are looking at it, you see that Malchut, or rather kingdom, is only connected to Yesod, which is foundation, which is the right way that is depicted in Kabbalah. So Kabbalah, by definition, means what we have received from previous generations that have received it all the way up through prophecy. So this is not human knowledge, and therefore, by definition, it's not a science, it's not a technology, it's not human-made. I can't just decide, from the top of my mind or from the tip of my pen what I want to say about it, but it rather is very godly knowledge, excluding other kind of philosophies, etc., which are human-made. So even though we give great credence and respect to any other kind of philosophies that are around, nevertheless, they are man-made. And by virtue of being made, they are time-bound, they are mind-bound, they are IQ-bound, they are culture-bound. And so who says that they're correct today when we are so far ahead, right, technology-wise, knowledge-wise, science-wise, from 4,000 or 5,000 years ago? So don't be fooled into thinking that Kabbalah and I don't want to mention names, but you know better than me, and any other kind of philosophies that are going around, these are all the same. Like some people wrote me back in one of my articles in Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and anything else, because that's not true. Because by virtue of Kabbalah, it is godly made. And how can I prove it is godly made? Well, look at your body. Well, there is no human being that ever can make a physical body. This is godly made. And to prove it, scientists for the last 20, 30 years in the accelerator in California have tried to manifest and to create one living cell, and they were unable to. Nobody can give life. Nobody can give life to one little cell, let alone an amoeba, let alone a rat, let alone a cat, let alone a monkey, let alone a human being, let alone a tree, one living leaf, one living bird. Nobody can do that. It's only God that breathes in the soul of life into every living being, whether it is plant-based or animal-based or a human being, which is very, very complex and intricate. And by me watching in the mirror and saying, well, this is an incredible creation, I understand that no human being can create this, only God. And therefore, the only system that answers this completely is Kabbalah and the Etz Chaim, the tree of life, which is given before human beings were ever on earth, and it was therefore given by prophecy, and it's not human knowledge. So what we're learning is sacred. What we're learning is secret knowledge, and that's why it's called the secret wisdom. Not like anything else. So don't be fooled or don't be misled by people that naively or intentionally think that this is compared to any kind of philosophy or science or technology. And I'm speaking from knowledge of books that were written, and this is really frustrating, to say the least, aggravating, to say the truth. So without further ado, we're going to go into the Sefirot of Malkuth, which is right at the bottom, and we're going to look into it, understand what it's about, why is it at the very bottom, and understand its importance, dramatic importance of it. Well, let's imagine that we are architects and we are civil engineers and we would like to build a house. Now, even though we are very smart and intelligent and we've got the degrees, a simple person comes with his wife and kids and asks us to build a house. We ask him, say, ma'am, what is the house made for? How many children you got? Well, I'd like to have a patio. I'd like to have a pool, right? Something out there. I'd like to have a pool. They will give us their needs that we will have to really sit down and scratch our minds in order to fix it right here in that space that they bought to make this entire apparatus a building according to their needs. This is, as Kabbalists explain to us, the Sefirot of Malkuth. Even though it seems to be very humble and simple, but the entire building that we built from top to bottom, understand the crown, we are human beings, we are spiritual beings that is having a physical experience. So the whole thing comes out from the top to bottom. But all of this incredible Etz Chaim, tree of life, was created for the one who is receiving all this prosperity and bounty, which is Malkuth, which is kingdom. And when we view the world through our senses, through our 5 physical senses, through our ego, through anything else, we always will view it through Malkuth, because we are the end line product. We are the receiver. For us was created the world, and understand this. If a computer sees stars are there, it doesn't see stars. It sees dots. If an animal, a cow, sees stars, it doesn't see stars. It sees dots. It has no ability to translate these dots into huge stars and how far they are. No capacity at all. Only a human being can rise up and say in Psalms 24 and says, God, how incredible are your handiwork. The sky, the earth, the moon, the stars. I am so humbled. Open Psalms 24 and see what King David was doing the nights and having this grasp, this understanding. Where was he saying it from? He was saying it from the place of Malkuth, from the place of kingdom. And therefore he is considered to be that person that is depicting in his life the very Sefirah, the very emanation of Malkuth, because he is the one who really observed life in a very, very humble way in this way. So what do we know about him that depicts this Sefirah? Well, he was very, very humble. He was the last of all the other children with his 7 siblings, altogether 7. And when Samuel the prophet came to choose the next king of Israel, their father himself and all the brothers didn't even think of bringing him along. He was a shepherd out there in the forest. Are you out of sons? Yeah, that's all the sons that they didn't even think about it. He was shorter than them. He was very powerful, very brave, but didn't think of him as a potential king. He was red-headed, and he was shorter, and he was out there being a shepherd, not a man of towns, etc. But Samuel said, no, God didn't choose any of you. God chose this one. Each one has got a certain kind of issue, challenge, with anger issues, patience issues, ego issues. He doesn't have any issues. He's humble, he is a servant, he's subservient, and he's able to nullify himself in front of God when need be. So when need be means as an act of a king, right? We hear of kings that they do exactly what they want, that they take charge their way. And I don't speak about anyone in particular, but you can research history and see that kings, that most of the wars, even that we have them today, are about ego, about power, about money, about fuel, gas, and any other kind of commodities. He didn't, even though King David fought 33 wars, which is a lot, none of them were powered by his own ego. And we know it from the prophets who gave evidence on him. It was all powered by a need to protect the land of Israel. It was empowered by the need to build a temple in Jerusalem that stood there actually twice. Once King David prepared for the first one, his son King Solomon built it, and it stood for 420 years. And the second one stood for 410 years after the exile of Babylon came back. So he's the initiator of all this. In the nighttime, he used to put next to his bed a violin, a harp rather, and when the wind came, the breeze came through the window, that used to wake him up. Didn't have the normal iPhones we have today, and that I can call it up and say the exact time I want to wake up. So he knew how to put with the wind, the harp, to wake him up, and he stood up and he started learning, because he realized both as the chief of staff and both as the head of the Sanhedrin, which is the high court of 71 judges, who judges criminal cases for the cases of death. So you need to be a very, very sharp, well-balanced human being. At the same time, this is who he was, but at the same time, he was very humble. When somebody came to court in front of him, even though the rich man was the right adversary and the poor man lost, because that was the right judgment to do, nevertheless, after the judgment, King David went to him privately and said, my dear friend, I'm so sorry that you lost. That was the right thing to do, but now you have no money. Let me give you some kind of a donation privately, not to shame you. So he was incredibly humble and an executor of many, many wars, which is the depiction and symbol of the Sefirah emanation of Malkuth. Now, you understand this very well. And by the way, there's a misnomer that people today put it up in all kind of social media, that everyone are sinners. Well, King David did not sin, as it's very, very clear. He did not sin with Bathsheba. According to Kabbalah, King David is the reincarnation of the first man, Adam. According to Kabbalah, Bathsheba, his wife, was a reincarnation of Eve, and they had together an incredible son who the Bible itself says the wisest of all men that ever lived, that wrote 3 books, the Song of Songs, as well as Proverbs, as well as Ecclesiastics. King David left us a book of the heart, which is Psalms, which any person in any kind of trouble anywhere around the world that has, this is what we open. You get stuck in anywhere, you get stuck in the aeroplane, and it's Mayday. You get stuck in with your wife giving birth. You get stuck with no money. The book that you open and you start crying out, Book of Psalms, because this man had an incredible, humble heart which speaks directly to God and left it for us as a legacy, as an inheritance for each one of us to be able to enjoy and use according to our need. And many of these books come out today already with telling you at the headline, right, each psalm, what is it about, so that you can pick and choose the psalm that will suit your needs when the time comes to use that. Very good. Now, what we're going to do now is understand on a deeper level, that is as follows. And that is, behind, or rather governing, the Sefirot of Malkuth, as I've discussed before, beyond the Sefirot of Malkuth, what governs it is a certain Hebrew sacred letter, which are these 22 are the spiritual atoms with which the world was created. So in the English, in the translation, there are almost exactly the same letters, but some aren't. For example, TH in English, in the Hebrew will come as a taf with a dot inside or not dot inside. So in the English, there are other letters that are not within the Hebrew. In Chinese, I understand the 7,000 letters. So each language is very, very respectable and good, but it's humanly made. However, the only language which is not humanly made, that's why it's called the Holy Tongue, is the Hebrew, sacred Hebrew, with which the Bible was written. And it wasn't man-written, as some philosophers would like to say, but rather it was handed down to Moses at Mount Sinai by God. So the letter Tav, T-A-V, not T-A-F, is the one that governs and controls this entire apparatus, an emanation of Malchut. What do we know about it? Well, Tav in the Hebrew, it will be T in the English, but it doesn't completely correspond. As you can see, is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And therefore it represents, it symbolizes the tachlit, in other words, the goal, the aim. What is the goal of everything? Remember how I started? I gave you a beautiful analogy. You call engineers, you call civil engineers, you call architects, you call everyone that works around, the plumbers, the electricians, everything. But they know nothing what to do unless you tell them. And who tell them? That simple couple with children that bought the house or wants to design the house according to their needs. And therefore, everything we do must have an end goal to it. Everything we do must have an end goal to it, and that is depicted by the Sefirot of Malkuth, and that is depicted by the letter Taf, which means this is the Tachlis, this is the end goal that we're all looking for in our life. Now, if you look at the shape of the letter Taf, you will see it's made as if it's upside down shape, which looks a little bit like the letter Chet in Hebrew, which means it depicts this world, a very, very materialistic kind of world which we live in, but it's got a kind of an arrow at the end of it, which says this world has to be transformed. And it's beautiful that in the English, the word transformation starts with a T. What are we here to transform? What is this whole world is about? As I said to start with, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. What are we here to transform? We are here to transform every single physical experience that we have through our five senses, including food, money, fashion, work, relationships, lifestyle, health, everything we own, everything we see. We are here to transform into something very, very spiritual and elevated, something very spiritual and elevated. And this is depicted by the letter Taf. This is depicted by the Sefirot of Malkuth. How come? Again, because that shape, the letter Chet, means this world. The little pointy arrow at the end of the Taf means, yes, but we should make it into transformation. So many of us live a whole lifetime where we always think about, and it's okay, is money, wealth, finances, how do we change the crypto into USDT? We all know about it. But that's not what life is about. It's only a means to an end. If you live to work, you lost it, you got lost. You should work to live. If you go on pension, if you go to retire at 95, until then you worked yourself, sick, Day in, day out, you never enjoyed life, you never experienced life. So the whole point of life is all along the way. Every day, you transform something to a higher level. You can speak to somebody in a very, very judgmental way, but you can also transform it and say the same thing in a kind, compassionate way, in the same very, very way. So, therefore, this letter Taf also explains to us where is it first met in the Bible, in the Torah. So, we have a Kabbalist that lived some 300 years ago. His name was the Vilna Gaon, the genius from Vilna, who was incredible genius. According to Kabbalah, we have two kinds of messiahs. One is Messiah, the son of David. David in his life was Messiah. And every generation we have a reincarnation of messiahs according to Kabbalah. The other one is Messiah, the son of Joseph. And he was the Vilna Gaon who lived some 300 years ago, was an incredible genius. I don't know if he had the IQ of 20,000, 30,000, something above imagination, who wrote books about trigonometry, about geometry, about philosophy, as well as incredible books about Kabbalah and code of law in every subject that is possible, and met professors from the university in Vilna that were astounded by his wealth of knowledge as well. So this is well known. So he says as follows. We have a rule, we have a principle. Every time a letter is met for the first time in the Hebrew original Bible, and it comes at the beginning of a word, I'm going to explain it now, I'm going to give you an example, that is the meaning, the inner secret meaning of that letter. Again, every time we get a letter, first time in the Bible, which is depicted at the beginning of a word, for example, transformation, starts with a T. If this was the first time we met that word in the Bible, well, that is the first time, that will be the meaning of the letter Taf. But where do we find in the Hebrew the word that starts with a T, with a Taf, that is Tohu, which is a complete wondering and astounding of what is it all about. And the land was completely vast, void, and anyone that looked at it, I don't understand what I'm looking at. That was before God started to make arrangements and organization and creation. That was already on the first day, in the first few verses of Genesis. What does it mean? It means that when we come to this world, we all get very lost. Some people get lost at work. Some people get lost with no marriage. Some people get lost with their health. Some people get lost with drugs. Some people get lost with addictions. And some people get lost in Facebook. And that's an addiction as well, to scroll up and down the whole day in Facebook and in Instagram and all the rest. And the first thing to do around here is say, what is the goal of all that I'm doing in every single thing? It doesn't mean that you are a nerd. It doesn't mean that you dried up. It doesn't mean that you're very serious, only serious. It means I want to understand what it's all about. You're going to marry a person. What is it all about? It's just about looks. It's just about money. No, I'm not saying yet right or wrong. I'm saying, what are you doing this for? I'm going to work because I really enjoy and I have passion for it, or I'm only doing it because of the money. Because if I'm doing it for the money, well, money that will be enough for you. Maybe it is today, maybe in 2 years' time you'll want more. So ask yourself this question: what I'm doing now in every single area of my life, does it have an end goal? What is my mission here on earth? Do I know myself well enough to say, this is what I'm unique at, this is my being very special, and therefore everything that I will do in life, I have to be true to my inner core self. Everything I do in life, I must be true to my inner core self. This is the most amazing and transformational understanding of any human being. Most of us are followers. Most of us are employees, not out of choice, because out of the survival mode. And I understand that. We all were there or we all will be there. But the truth is, if you can put aside a few hours in the night or during the day, or rearrange your life, or transform your life, and you can live at your dream, and don't let only people like Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and others live the dream and you work for them. No, we all have uniqueness. Some are musicians, some are writers, some are sportsmen, and some are incredible chefs. It doesn't have to be all in the academics. It doesn't have all to be left brain mathematics geniuses. It can be in many other fields as well. Find that and you will find what transforms you. Because when you do, you don't need motivational speaking and lectures, because you will never want to go to sleep anymore. You won't need drugs and addictions to numb your pain and to run away, because you're so enthralled with life. God, I found who I am. I found what I'm here for. I found what I want to do here. Spend time with yourself, listening to your intuition, and finding what is your forte, what really makes you tick. If it's difficult for you, you can always reach out to people, to spiritual masters and mentors that will help you do this. And there are many tools in the arsenal that we have to help you find exactly what you're here for if it's difficult for you to do. And again, sometimes at the age of 20, you might find a certain goal, and it's good for the age of 20. When you're 35 and 40, you might have a different goal. You might at 25, 30, 35 want to be a mom, but then when your children start to grow up, you also want a career, or the other way around. So different ages have got different goals, and this is okay because you are on a growth process, and that's wonderful. Now, on a deeper level, the letter Tav governs the planet Moon. Now, what do we see in the Moon? We see a very blemished kind of planet. It's small, doesn't have its own light, it's cold unless the sun shines on one of its sides at 150 degrees Celsius. The other side is freezing cold because there's no light coming from it. And it looks to us as if it's got many blemishes on it, because that depicts the very value, the very symbolism of the Sefirah, the emanation of Malkuth, which means that it's not strong, it's sensitive, it can include others, it's a feeling kind of emanation. It's there to receive from others in a receptive way, and therefore this is the truth about it, and this is depicted also, it's governing also the zodiac sign of Cancer. So anyone who's with us tonight who was born in Cancer, or that in astrological chart, the moon is a very powerful, dominant kind of planet in your chart, astrological chart, you should know that something is very, very beautiful, inclusive, giving in you, and at the same time very sensitive and ready or recessively open to be hurt by others, and therefore you need to be protected. Now, everything comes in this world with the other side of it. I'm going to finish soon, but I'm allowing you also for questions. The other side of it, and it is brought down through the letters of the great Rabbi Akiva, and he wrote a whole book about the secrets of each of the letters. He says, when you spell it out in the Hebrew, I told you it's T-A-V, T-A-V. But sometimes when people speak the Hebrew, and it's been spoken for the last close to 5,000 years, you call it Tav, which is T-A-I-V or T-A-Y-V. There's the little I there, Tav. And the word Tav in the Hebrew comes from the word Tava, which means desire, lust. In other words, a person that has it in his name, the letter T in the English or Tav in the Hebrew, a person that was born under Cancer, a person that was born with the moon being very dominant in the astrological chart, and any one of us can really have the other side, the shadowy side, which is really, really drawn into the world of lust, desires, and temptations, which is this generation which we are so much into this. And again, nobody's to blame. What I want to share with you is an inkling as a therapist, as a psychologist, and other things that I do in my clinic, and that is a person that goes into all these addictions. It can be shopaholic, it can be workaholic, it can be any addiction like drugs and gambling and any other kind, pornography, anything that people go to. This is the end result It never is the reason. The reason is usually covered up with fear, with sensitivity, with things that happened in the past that we can't manage on our own. So somebody called you a loser, you don't have self-confidence. And I have quite a few patients with this seriously around the globe. I work internationally. But the result of the addiction is just to numb the pain. It's just a symptom of how you really feel. So addiction is not an illness. Addiction is a symptom covering up on something much deeper in you that has to be transformed. And how do we transform it? Last words for tonight, before I hand it over to Mike and to you. That is, try to find your end goal. Try to find your passion. Try to listen to intuition, what makes you tick. Find your own dream and try to live it out without changing your lifestyle for now. At least find time during the day, an hour or two or half an hour, to do something that you really love, and then you'll really be thrilled and you won't need addiction, because this is an incredible positive addiction. To do what you love. Like Brothers Dodge and Ford and many other people that lived their dream because they found, or the brothers right, that because of them we can fly today around the world in the United States of America. So try to find your own dream. Thank you so much. I spoke quite a lot, very intensively. So now I'll give you time and place to ask your questions, if there are any. Please be my guest and go ahead. I hope you enjoyed it, by the way, as much as I did, because so far I enjoyed myself a lot. Mike, are we here? Mike, are you with us? Let's wait another minute. Allow Mike to come back. He was obviously called for something else, and that's okay. I'm sure he's going to be back with us shortly. Yeah, he's...
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I'm not sure exactly what happened.
That's okay.
Yes, so I want to thank you very much for that very enlightening lecture on the Sefirot of Malkuth. We did have a few people dropping in and out of the chat room, dropping a couple questions. The issue is we have a couple people who don't have proper access to the internet right now, and they are trying to follow us from several places across the world. So we have several different perspectives on this. Of course, we've already covered some of the questions that relate to the chakras, how the tree of life, that Chaim, is more expansive on the different parts of the human body and the human soul. One of the questions, however, goes back to, I think, the last Podclass and 2 Podclasses ago, which are the relating to the Sefirot of Yesod, foundation, and the Sefirot of Tifereth, or heart. And it says that all of these Sefirot seem to appear in the middle pillar. Is there any way that the other Sefirot are connected or contained within the heart and can all be unlocked, as in when somebody unlocks their heart chakra?
So let's have a look again. This is a beautiful question. Interesting. Let's have a look, maybe, Mike, at the tree of life and see that the Sefirot of Tiferet, of glory, is actually related and connected to 6 of the other Sefirot. And therefore, it is one of the most important, if not the most important Sefirot. Sefirot of Tiferet is connected to Chesed, which is kindness, which is right up here, and Gvura, which is on the left side, which is the strength or judgment. It's also connected to Netzach, which is the victory, on the right-hand side, which is facing our liver. It's also connected to the left-hand side, which is facing our spleen and left foot, and it's also connected down to foundation, which is so. So therefore, it's called, in the Kabbalah, it's called Vat, which means it's connected to 6 different Sefirot, and therefore it's very, very fundamental. By the way, what we're learning now, it's like the Karate Kid when we're learning wish-wash. In other words, we're learning the basics, but you should know, my dear friends, there's a whole big understanding, and I teach it for many years, which is called Kabbalistic healing, which is really, really doing an incredible, deep job of uncovering the root problems and issues and solutions and healing for any kind of ailment, because we look for the root causes according to the Sefirot and healing through the Sefirot, which is incredible. And so I've studied this and I've learned it for years back, and I've been teaching it for quite a while. So what you're learning now must know you're learning the wish and wash of the Karate Kid, but there's lots standing behind. So it's correct to say, zooming in on the question, that the Sefirah of Tiferet is interconnected to 6 other ones, and therefore maybe it is the most important. However, it is not connected to the triad which comes at the head, which is the Keter, the crown, the Sefirah of wisdom, which is Chokhmah on the right hemisphere, the Sefirah of understanding, which is on the left, or the Dat, which is the knowledge. And it is not connected to Malkuth, which we discussed today. So every Sefirah stands on their own, but they all belong to one whole system called the Etz Chaim. So we can't say that all the Sefirot are on the middle pillar, which they aren't, and that is the beauty or the uniqueness separating the Etz Chaim, the Sefirot, from the chakras, which are only on the middle pillar. So we don't have only middle pillar. We don't have the Sefirah of Tiferet connected to everything. We don't. Otherwise, we don't need the other things. We just need this. But it is definitely a major Sefirah, and I hope I answered the question. Whoever asked it, thank you so much for your question. Anything else, Mike?
Yes. Okay. So, somebody did ask a question. It said, you spoke about the paths connecting the different Sefirah, and that you will begin covering these. The question is, what is the relationship between these letters connecting the Sefirah and the pathways themselves?
Right. So I will say it now in a word for those that are curious and cannot hold themselves back till next time. It is a beautiful question, but we're going to discuss it at length. But in short, the answer is for. Let's look 1 second at the Etz Chaim. I also like to have questions right here and now. My spiritual mentor that I had for quite a few years when I grew up in South Africa told me, Gil, you should look like a question mark. Stay with your question for 24 hours to think about it yourself before I give it to you and spoon feed you right now. So look at this Etz Chaim. What it says is as follows. And maybe, Mike, you got an Etz Chaim which is less complicated, because that looks, when somebody looks at it, they get headache. But it is so, yes, thank you so much. The ones on the left. What it is as follows. The first 10 Sefirot, they stand facing actual planets. In other words, they are governing planets which govern zodiac signs. They are covering actually actual organs within our body which are major. The heart, the liver, the spleen, the brain, the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere, the productive kind of organs that we have. Each one governs a complete physical whole organ or section of our body, physical body, as well as the celestial kind of planets out there. However, the 12 meridians that we have interconnecting them cover the meridians within the body, which creates this beautiful track and interconnectedness between the different Sefirot. They don't depict a certain kind of organ. They don't depict a certain kind of a planet, but they do depict 12 zodiac signs. They do depict the fact that there are interrelations between everything. For example, I can be very, very kind and loving to a child. At the same time, sometimes I have to put them in place. I can be a very good friend to my child, but sometimes I have to be the parent if they want to go to sleep too late, or if they want to do all kind of naughty things that are not appropriate. So sometimes I have to interconnect the good and the bad, the judgment and the kindness. A policeman, when he stops somebody at red light because he was speeding through red light, the one who was caught will say he's very judgmental, that policeman, but really saving all of us and is being very kind to us by saving and protecting us from this kind of person that is shooting intentionally, if it is intentional, through the red light. So we have to have interconnectedness between left and right, between the judgment and the kindness. We have to have interconnectedness even from the Holy Crown up there all the way down to the Malkuth. And there are this interconnection to all of them. We'll speak about it as well. So I couldn't give you everything at the first time that we went through things, because we missed out on the 12 meridians that we definitely are left them out on intentionally to discuss them next time, start discussing them, as well as starting to see the interconnectedness of everything. Because everything is. Chinese medicine, for example, speaks about meridians, which is awesome and beautiful. We're going to speak about this. However, Chinese medicine has got 5 elements and not 4. I'm going to show you that in Chinese medicine, the 5 elements are actually 3, because 3 is 1, 3 is 1, fire is 2, earth is 3. Metal is a product of the earth, right? We mine it from the earth. Chinese medicine, for example, does not have air at all. That's why we do whatever it is, we do from the bottom top. So Chinese medicine got 5 elements, but it's missing on air. Kabbalah has got 4 elements, which we all know, which is depicted within human beings, which is depicted within the astrological chart, depicted within nature. So it's very hands-on on what actually happens in nature. And there is a 5th element, which is the ether, and that is depicted by the crown. And those that want to roll back and listen to that lecture about the crown will hear about this. Thank you so much. As I said at the beginning, I am time sharing this room, which is part of my home clinic as well, but some other people need this clinic as of now. So I'll thank you very much. If you've got other questions, let me write quickly into the chat. Let me see, where is the chat? Here it is. My personal email. You're welcome to ask me any one particular question that you have. If you want personal readings, you can always do it with me or with Mike, whoever you wish to. I think I wrote it correctly, Gil Tivon at gmail.com. More than welcome to approach me, and we will find time to speak to each other or to answer your questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Gil Tivon, and thank you to everyone for participating and watching, and for your great and insightful questions. We did have one question that Dr. Tivon and I get a chance to address, as we did begin a little late today, which was asked by an individual who wants to remain anonymous, which is, how can we be sure that Hebrew is truly a language that is a holy tongue delivered by angels? How are we certain that it is not created by men? And this question I think I could maybe shed a little bit of light on, and it goes back to what Dr. Tivon was saying at the beginning of the episode, which is how in the scriptures, if you open up the Bible, the first time you will see a letter used in the beginning of a word, it will give you a hint to its meaning, the meaning of the letter. And all these things are so interconnected, and there's so many synchronicities which just can't possibly be coincidence, that it's almost written in a multi-dimensional language. So for somebody to say that, man created this, and, that it was basically developed overnight by primitive man, and then it wasn't passed down from some type of higher source, and whoever, which means it may have been, then, it poses a lot of questions as to how do we know? And I think Dr. Tivon would be able to shed a lot more light on that than I can answer that question more in depth and in detail. And of course, please stay tuned for next week's episode when we will begin talking about the different paths, the 22 paths and 12 parallels on the Etz Chaim, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. Thank you again for joining us, everybody. I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night. This has been Inner Secrets Revealed Kabbalah Class with Dr. Gil Tivon. As always, I am your host with Metaphysical Sciences TV, Mike Ray. Until next time, we'll see you later.